Let's see. I'm going to wait till I see the confirmation just to be sure. All right. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. About it for the last few weeks, and today's the day. So I'm really excited to be calling you fellow writer and welcoming you to talk about being a soon-to-be author. So I just wanted to, sort of introduce you a bit, and you can add anything that you'd like. But as I've said in my description, Noelle is an old friend of mine. Old, I shouldn't say old. We don't like to say that anymore. Dear friend of mine. We've known each other for a very long time. We started in a play group, and our kids were like, what, 3 or 4?
Even younger, yeah.
It's been quite a while. Yeah, younger than that. And sort of out of the blue, perhaps, I don't know how long you've been thinking about it, but Noelle just announced, I'm going to write a book. So I want to go back to that place, which doesn't seem that long ago. I mean, I know I wasn't the one in the trenches doing all the work, but it seems like it was probably less than 2 years since you decided, like, this is what I'm going to do. And she just signed her publishing contract this week. So this is really exciting. So give me a little bit of, just some context. Like, did you ever think you would write a book? Is it something you were thinking about for a long time? Or was this really just within the last couple of years, it all came together and you decided to go for it?
It's a little bit of both. I never really thought I would write a book. It had been suggested to me at various points over the years. The book is based on a framework or model for understanding and treating anxiety that I use in my therapy practice, and that I've been teaching to therapists in the Chicago area for probably about 8 years now. And so people would ask me after coming to the trainings, you know, are you going to write a book? You should write a book. So it's something that had been suggested to me or I had been asked about over the years. And my response was always, oh, I don't think so. Like, I just don't have, I'm not one of those people who says, like, oh, I've got this book in me that I just have to write. And
Right.
I
Which
never
is just
really
about every other person, right? Oh, I've got an idea for a book. Let me just whip that off.
Well, and so, there are a lot of people who do genuinely have like something in them that they do want to write into a book, and I know it's a long
Yeah.
process and journey for a lot of people to get to the point of doing it. But my reaction always was like, oh, I don't think so. Like, I've thought about it, but I just really didn't have this really strong desire to do it. How I came, and it was sort of a very like not really spontaneous decision, but a decision that came through quickly and sort of surprised me. And it came out of being invited to a conference for women who were interested in writing and speaking. It was given by Sarah Cannell, who you know, and
Yeah.
Thought Leader Academy. And she runs a coaching program to help people, write a book and sort of have a vision for what they want to do with the book beyond that. So I was invited to a conference that she was given, and I went into it knowing she was going to be pitching for her coaching program. And was told, I just want you to know that that's going to happen. And I was like, well, that's totally fine because there's no way I'm going to sign up for it. Like, it just wasn't
Right.
even something I thought that I would actually be interested in doing. And I just found myself at the conference really sort of realizing, I think I do want to do this. I do have this idea. I do have this, sort of framework that might help people. And and I just realized that I think I would like to try to share that beyond the small way that I've been doing it just in my own practice or teaching other therapists. And so the decision really did come very quickly. Um, but after it had been something sort of like in the back of my mind for a number of years.
So you knew that you had something that you thought was unique through your practice and through your clients. You
Yeah.
knew that people had said to you, sort of urged you, like, oh, I think this is valuable information. And then it all kind of came together where you had this opportunity to get some support around putting a book out, right?
Yes.
So then fast forward 2 years. I mean, that's pretty fast timeline for you to finish an entire, not only
Yeah.
first draft, but do revisions, and now you've signed your contract. So, you know, how was that? What did you work really, I don't want to say did you work really hard on it? Of course you did, but did you spend a lot of time on it? Was it harder than you thought? Did it take more time than you thought? Or did it all sort of fall together because you had this background?
Well, I think that so I decided to do this in October of 22, so it's been like a year and a half. And so
Okay.
a lot did happen in that year and a half. I will give credit for the speed at which it got done to Sarah and her coaching program because it did provide all the support. I mean, just if it was just me saying, "Oh, I'm going to write this book," as somebody who's never done that, who has no idea how to go about doing that, it would have been much harder. So to have the
Yeah.
support of like guiding you through the process. We also were given, as part of that coaching program, 10 sessions with an editor, which was invaluable. I mean, the book would not have ever come together without the
Yeah.
editor, and it to see how much it changed through that process and how much my writing improved through that process um,
Yeah.
was really crucial. So that feels like
So
a
you
really
had
crucial piece.
accountability. Yeah, you had deadlines, you had accountability, and that made a huge difference, obviously, right? I mean, I
Yeah,
think
and
that's,
community, which made a huge difference. So
yeah,
being in a community with other people who were all writing books, who, were all sort of working towards the same goal and really supporting each other was immensely helpful as well. And
yeah,
I happened to sign up to do it with two friends, two people that I knew. And the three of us would get together for writing weekends or like full writing days. And I also really feel like that was instrumental in the book actually getting written, that we would carve
yeah.
out the time to spend together just to write. And so on the weekends, we would, spend a good 2 full days doing nothing
Wow.
but writing. And then we would
Oh,
also
that's
set up
great.
single days where we would
Yeah.
start at 8 in the morning and go until 5 or 6 and just write. And that was incredibly helpful.
Wow. Did you ever go through, or are you possibly still going through any kind of imposter syndrome or thinking, why am I writing about, you're writing about anxiety and how to
Yeah.
do it in a different way? Um, Yeah, what was that like? Was there ever a point when you thought, what am I writing this for? I don't have this, or this, or I don't have a big platform, or there are other books on anxiety. Why do I need to add one?
Yeah, I mean, all the time. I mean, I'm so like, having those thoughts of why am I doing this? Or,
Yeah,
what do I think that I have to contribute is definitely a thought that has appeared many times throughout the process. I hit a huge moment of imposter syndrome recently, attending a professional conference, and at the and it's a professional conference that, in my like sort of biggest aspirations, I would love to be able to present at one day about this work with anxiety, and went there with the
yeah,
intention of wanting to connect with other people who are presenting, who are like, many steps beyond where I am, professionally, and invited to do that. And I did meet those people. They were all like very supportive and lovely. And one of them offered to endorse the book. And that sent me into a complete panic of
rather than like, yeah, all right. It's like, oh shit. No, no, are
like,
you
oh my
sure?
gosh, like they're
Let me
actually going
talk
to
you
read
out of
it.
it.
And what if this is like
Yeah,
terrible? And I embarrassed myself. And so I did hit like a huge moment of imposter syndrome. And I sort of expect that that will continue to happen every time I sort of push myself beyond. I mean, I think that's what has happened is I was comfortable sort of in the zone I was in. And every time I've sort of had to like push that comfort zone out further and maybe sort of think about what I might be able to contribute in a bigger way, it it inevitably comes with,
oh
feelings
yeah,
of imposter syndrome and contraction. I think that's sort of part of the process, like expansion
yeah.
and contraction and expansion and contraction. And I just think that's going to continue.
Absolutely. And also, you're writing nonfiction, obviously. You're not coming at it from fiction. What you do insert your own personal stories somewhat. Tell me how that was, because I think personally, I mean, of course, I love a good story, and I love that personal connection. I like it when even nonfiction writers do give us something of their own struggles. And I really liked how you did that, how you share your story when it's necessary to really kind of illuminate what you're talking about. It makes it very relatable. But was that difficult as a therapist? Was it hard to put yourself on? I mean, I would think there'd be two things that would be difficult. One would be claiming that expert status, which as a therapist, you're writing from that perspective. It's like, yeah, you
Right.
are an expert, but then there's also, well, I want to tell you about myself. And maybe those two things are different hats, and you might feel more uncomfortable inserting yourself because it's, therapy. Or how did that go?
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, it because the stories that I shared were not, to me, not super vulnerable or super revealing, I felt comfortable with it. I think that,
Yeah,
and yes, there were some of my stories like interspersed in there, but they were in no way the focal point of the book.
right.
And in fact, when I started writing, I had no intention of including anything about myself in the book. And it was my intention was I'm writing this as, like, as you said, the expert. And I knew I was going to share stories about my son because he's part of why I care so much about this. He is someone who's lived with anxiety for most of his life. And I had his permission to include stories about him. And then, of course, client stories that were disguised. And I later went on and shared those stories with each client who was included and got their permission to use what I wrote about them.
Right.
Um, but actually didn't intend to include myself. And then as I was writing it, and as I was writing and thinking about sort of my own examples of some of the things that I was talking about, it felt I don't know, it felt like it sort of I felt more comfortable with not just being like this kind of distant, removed sort of expert, so to speak,
Yeah.
and that to include some stories about myself just to, I don't know, make it normalize it and also make it more personal so that it's not like, oh, I'm this person, who's coming at this with expertise, who's never experienced any of what I'm talking about. It
Yeah.
just it felt like a more, you use the word relatable, but um, I don't know, more genuine, I guess, also.
Yeah. I mean, so, because I've told you, I read it, just before Christmas. And oh my gosh, of course, I didn't know what to expect. I've known you for years. I've known that you work with anxiety and are a therapist, but we've never gotten into the specifics. And I thought, oh yeah,
Right.
I've dealt with anxiety my whole life, and I've sort of read this and that, and I know everything there is to know about it, but I still can't, can't best it. It's never going to get the better of it. And so your book was really, really helpful for me. And I have tried to kind of think about why, and it is you present it. Like you said, when people have said to you before, like, oh, this is a way I've never thought about it. You should write a book. I would totally agree with that. I had the same reaction. Like, I know a lot of these concepts, but there was a way that you broke it down so understandably, and then the way you give those examples. So for me, I really believe that we learn through stories, and only through story, through some sort of human example. And so maybe, and I've always thought maybe that's just me. Maybe that's the way, if it's a concept or something, I have a harder time grasping it. But because you gave so many examples, and you did, share the personal pieces of it, it was so easy to understand. It was so easy to break it down into these little bite-sized things. And then, as I told you, things were happening in my life at exactly the same time I was reading it, that allowed me to practice, my puppy breaking both of his legs and this traumatic experience. And I literally have been reading your book that day, and I'm feeling like I'm going to pass out. And I'm remembering, like, oh, Noelle said this is what's happening in my body, and this is normal, and and it's a good thing. And it just right there, it was ready for me to use. So yeah, I thought that was great. But I do talk to a lot of people who I call like the reluctant author, right? When they're writing nonfiction and they don't want to put themselves in at all. And it's sort of this hands off thing. And inevitably, it's sort of like this wrestling with, should I be a little bit more personal? Should I open up a little bit more? And I feel like every time they do, they're happy that they've done it. And it shows, the book is better for it. So
Yeah,
what's
and thank
next?
you. Yeah, no, well, thank you for all of that. And I know that when I sent you the book, I know I told you like I feel really vulnerable sending this to you. And I felt that way because I respect you so much as an author. I mean, you're such a beautiful author. And because I knew like that you've experienced anxiety throughout your life and that you're somebody who is very familiar with it. So, both the writing part of it, like, is this going to be any good from just the writing,
Right.
standpoint? But then also, is this just going to be too simple? Is this going to be stuff that you already know? And I did really feel like very vulnerable in sending it to you. And when you let me know that it was helpful to you, like that just meant the world to me because that's why I'm
Yeah.
doing this. It's like what the hope
Yeah.
is with it. So that meant a
Yeah.
lot to me.
Well, I really recommend it. So you'll have to keep us posted on the publication date. And I know that's not a super short process, and there's a lot of things that now you have to go
Yes.
through it. It'll be a while, but you'll let us know. But what are you looking forward to in the next part of the journey? Like when you think about the book coming out, what's exciting to you?
Um, yeah, it feels like there's so much to do between now and the book coming out that, I feel like I'm so in that part of it. I think
Yeah.
um honestly, I think the thing that if there's something that I'm looking forward to about it being out there um is really the feedback that you gave me about it, which is just hoping that when people read it, that it will help them understand themselves in a new way, that it will um, give them some tools that they can use that will make a difference in how they're experiencing their anxiety and just that it will be helpful. Like every time I've gotten feedback from people, whether it's about, who've read the book or if it's about articles that I write for Psychology Today, it's that just sort of is like the it, it gives just this warm feeling like that's why you're doing all this because it's
Yeah.
not natural for me to be doing any of this and it it's I do not like sort of putting myself out there very much and so it's been a big
Says a published
exercise.
author. You have to stop saying that. No more reluctant author. How easily are you going to find it, or how easy will you find it going forward to say, I'm an author? I am an
I have
author.
never said that. And like
I
even
know
when
you
you
should
were
say it. You got to say it. I love the story about, I probably said this before, but I used to volunteer at Open Books, which is this literacy program in Chicago with grade school kids. So I went when my kids were little, and it's this wonderful program where they take a field trip down there and they do some sort of writing project. But the best piece of it is at the end, they all have to hold their pencils in the air and shout as loud as they can, I am an author. And the kids love it. They all shout it at the top of their lungs, and it just gives you goosebumps. It's the best thing ever. It's the best part of every field trip. And it's so funny because whenever, I ask people that are writing their first book or they're, going through this process, like, so now you're an author and have you told people? They're all like, oh my God, I can't say that. I can't say I'm an author. And it's like, well, you know what? You are. You just wrote a book. So, pick up your pencil, wave it in the air and say, I am an author, and own it.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I am an author and I do need to step into that.
Yeah.
It's
The fun part.
a different concept, it's a different identity, but
Yeah.
it's been an exciting process and a hard one and one that's had a lot of personal growth attached to it too. As I
Yeah.
imagine is true for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll stay tuned and you'll keep us posted. And I'll put, maybe I can put a link, attach a link to one of your articles or something, Psychology Today, or we can just, people can follow you. That would be great.
Great. Yeah, and I can share my
Yeah.
Instagram and that is a place to follow as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank
That would
you.
be great. Yeah. And everybody definitely follow, anything you can of Noelle's, because prior to the book coming out, that's really important to build up your followers and your platform. And so that will
Yes.
really help with the success of the book. And she's always got great tips. So, anybody who's so inclined and anybody who deals with anxiety, everybody probably,
Everybody.
go ahead and follow. So, all right, thanks. I won't keep you, but thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank
And I
you.
will talk to you soon.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, bye bye.